about 5:31, and we're reconvening the open meeting. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The first item is presentation of a proclamation of the Board of Directors of the Brownsville Public Utilities Board for the City of Brownsville, recognizing and commending Emmanuel Vasquez as chairman for 2010. So, Mr. Vasquez, you want to do it here? On behalf of the Board of Directors and the staff, this proclamation for yourself, Emmanuel Vasquez, for his unselfish and dedication service to the Brownsville Public Utilities Board in resolving all matters thereof. Whereas Emmanuel Vasquez was appointed by the City Commission to the City of Brownsville to serve on the Board of Directors for the Brownsville Public Utilities Board, where he continues to serve since October 2nd, 2007. And whereas Emmanuel Vasquez was elected as Board Chairman by the Board of Directors of the Brownsville Public Utilities Board and served as Chairman from January 1st, 2010 through December 31st, 2010, and elected to serve as President of the Southmost Regional Water Authority since January 13, 2010. Under the leadership of Manuel Vasquez as Chairman of the Board, the Brownsville PUB approved the Robindale Wastewater Treatment Plant Expansion project to accommodate the North Services area wastewater treatment needs in the vicinity of Brownsville through the year 2025, thereby promoting PUB's dedication to a cleaner environment, which enables savings of operational spending by over $400,000 and reducing the volume of biosolids hauled to the landfill, lowering the electrical power demand of the plant and reducing greenhouse gases, steering local projects including the American Recovery and Reinvestment Act of 2009 grant in the amount of $46 million for wastewater system improvements, revising and adopting fair and equitable service charge fees, serving as a founding member of the Board of Directors for United Brownsville. Mr. Vasquez thereby provided the foundation for the guiding in the future of the Brownsville Motorplex, consistent with the vision and goals of the community, to outline the key private and public sector strategies needed to create a more sustainable and competitive community in order to attract the capital and resources needed to improve the economic development and the quality of life in Brownsville. Preserving the Brownsville Public Utilities Board electric bills in 2010 among the lowest in the Rio Grande Valley and alongside the lowest in the state of Texas, thereby continue the growth and financial strength of electric, water, and wastewater utilities in Brownsville. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Board of Directors of the Brownsville Public Utilities Board of the City of Brownsville, Texas, that such board recognizes and commends Emmanuel Vasquez for his unselfish and dedicated service, and that this resolution be entered upon the minutes of the Board of Directors of the Brownsville Public Utilities Board this 16th day of February 2011, signed the Board of Directors. Thank you very much.
Members of the board, Lucia, all employees, PUB, thank you very much. It's been a pleasure and a privilege to serve as chairman, and I look forward to continue to serve as a member of this fantastic board. Thank you very much.
Okay.
I'm going to go to item 9, or?
We're going to move item number 9. Item number 9 is presentation by Matthew Madalora of Premier Magnesia. Mr.
Chairman, members of the board, I believe that Premier and Magnesia people are here and wanted to talk briefly with the board on their product and some information on the last meeting that they were here but did not get a chance to speak, so they are here tonight.
Good evening. As you can see, I'm not Matthew Matalora. I am Mary Evans. I'm a representative for Premier Magnesia, Honorable Mayor, Public Utility Board, PUB members. Thank you for allowing me to speak tonight. As I said, I am a representative for Premier Magnesia. We're suppliers of the ThioGuard odor and corrosion product for the Brownsville PUB that's currently in use. I'd like to share just a little bit of background information with you regarding Premier Magnesia, who we are. We're the leading manufacturer and distributor of magnesia to wastewater treatment operations in the U.S. We are wastewater professionals who cover a broad spectrum of knowledge as it relates to wastewater operations and chemistry. Many of our representatives are licensed wastewater operators with years of experience in the industry. In fact, I myself am a Class A operator for the state of Texas. We have chemical engineers and other related professionals who are knowledgeable in magnesia. In fact, we wrote the book on magnesia, and here it is. This was written by Dr. Mark Shand. It is a complete biography of wastewater treatment and magnesia as it relates to that. As a company, we are strong proponents of our clients and customers using due diligence and exploring treatment options for their systems. It is the right and prudent course of action for PUBs and other municipal entities to take. As such, factual information is critical in assessing options and deciding on a proper course of action. That brings me to the reason that I am here this evening. During a recent presentation by a competitor, the following statements were made which we believe need to be addressed and clarified for the PUB board and to become part of a written record. An allegation was made that ThioGuard is a hazardous product. In fact, ThioGuard is a non-hazardous treatment for odors, corrosion, and treatment enhancement. ThioGuard does not meet any of the definitions set forth by the EPA, TCEQ, or Department of Transportation that defines a hazardous product. The same magnesium hydroxide chemistry that is in ThioGuard is also sold as a stimulant-free laxative, milk of magnesia. You can buy it in any store. Our product is exactly the same. Can it be abused? Absolutely. Someone drinks 20 bottles of milk of magnesia, that's not going to be a good thing. However, the way that it's utilized in the wastewater operations is a totally safe application. An allegation was made that ThioGuard spills are hazardous. In fact, ThioGuard is among the most environmentally friendly treatment options for odor and corrosion. There are specific rules that identify a hazardous spill within the Federal Code of Regulations, as well as the Texas Administrative Code. None of these definitions apply to ThioGuard. An allegation was made that the Brownsville PUB is not serviced by local Brownsville representatives. Fact, Brownsville PUB's ThioGuard Odor Control Program has been serviced by the same local service representatives working and living in Brownsville since 1998. At this time, I would like to introduce to you our local representative, Martin Johnson. Martin? Okay. He can certainly provide you with his local address and any other pertinent information that you would need to confirm that he is a local operator for us. Allegations were made that ThioGuard requires significant labor and service by the PUB personnel. The fact is that ThioGuard is a turnkey operation. Any work or maintenance that needs to be done in association with feeding this product is done by Martin or other personnel that we have on staff. The instances where we need assistance from the PUB is installing electrical equipment, plumbing, or whatever is necessary at a specific feed site. Things that we don't typically do for our clients. They don't usually want us in the electrical boxes that they own, so we rely on them to provide the electricity for us. There was an allegation made that a competitor outperformed ThioGuard in a head-to-head trial. In fact, a little bit of information was left out, specifically that ThioGuard was feeding upstream of this competitor's trial. And as our product, we claim and we can prove that it typically can go up to 50 miles with the treatment efficiency. I think that was not taken into account by our competitors who presented data and/or evidence that showed that their performance was better than ThyroGuard's. In fact, their analysis actually was affected by the fact that they were feeding ThyroGuard upstream of that particular location. Performance standards measured by otolog and ambient air is an appropriate method for trial comparison purposes. In fact, while there are otolog devices specifically designed for use in ambient air, the type of otolog that our competitor displayed does not have a resolution sufficient for taking ambient air measurements. Moreover, ambient air data must always be qualified and correlated in conjunction with ambient temperatures, wind speed, wind direction, humidity, precipitation, and data taken from within the designated structures. An allegation was made that the ThyroGuard program is ineffective. In fact, to this day, Brownsville PUB's wastewater is the most sulfur-laden of any municipal system in the U.S. We work all over the country, and we have never seen levels of this magnitude. We've also consulted with many, many other facilities that no one has the levels that you guys do. That's a curse. I apologize that y'all are having to face that. But in 1998, when we began with 5 feed units, we were addressing odors that were coming from the headworks of the North Robindale wastewater treatment plant. And you guys were getting complaints from the Winter Haven residential community. At that time, we started with an initial cost of around $300,000 for 5 feed units. Over the years, the wastewater flow to that particular plant has gone from 4.5 MGD to approximately 9 MGD today. As such, we've added additional feed units to the system to help control that. So our budget, in fact, after putting in an additional $500,000 worth of equipment, our annual budget now is in the neighborhood of $850,000. Again, our sole purpose for being here this evening was just to have on record our response to some of the allegations that were made. We felt like they were very serious in nature and could potentially harm us if presented to other clients as fact, because it was in writing. And this was our opportunity to respond to that and have this on record. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for being here, Ms. Evans. I did read your letter, and it was for the letter that was presented by Premier Magnesia. It was well written. It clarified maybe some points that the board needed to understand. So
Yes,
I
sir.
appreciate that you took the time to clarify those points, and you are the expert in odor control. And
Well, not in odor control in general, but we certainly know an awful lot about magnesia, and we certainly do know an awful lot about odor control.
and then you all have written the book on
Magnesia, yes, sir.
So I appreciate those comments. Does the board have any questions, Ms. Evans, on?
I think this is a presentation, it's not a discussion or action item.
Well, the presentation has some items that she's brought up, so I just wanted to entertain if the board had any questions.
I think GMPS never stated that it was dangerous. It stated that because people would breathe or inhale while spills happen, then it would be dangerous. And I don't think anybody would argue against that. When spills happen.
The nature of the product, when it is a slurry, is that there are typically not dry particles. Magnesium hydroxide in a dry form could be very similar to dirt, clay, or sand. All of them, due to inhalation, if you inhale enough of a dry product, it can irritate your lungs. Magnesium hydroxide, certainly in a dry form, could do the same thing. However, in the liquid slurry form that it currently is in, the opportunity for that is little to none.
And I think GMPS said that they were a local company. It doesn't dispute that you have local representation
I'm sorry, sir, could you define
here. I think
the,
GMPS said that they were a local company. They never disputed that you had local representation. So
okay.
I mean, it's kind of petty, I think, myself. I mean, if you look at the tape, which I looked at the tape, it was very clear.
All right.
So they never said it was dangerous, but it was dangerous only if it happened in a spill scenario where people breathe.
Okay.
I'm just pointing to some
And, sir, that's perfectly fine.
clarification, just like.
That's fine. I appreciate that.
Okay, and then, has Premier ever used PUB equipment?
I don't have an answer for that. In terms of to clean up a spill or to,
In any way in the use and treatment of this product, has he used PUB personnel? Has he used PUB electricity?
the electricity, yes.
But you can't respond to the equipment or the person.
No, but Mr. Johnson, who's here, do you mind if I ask him to respond to that?
Sure, let me get. through the
Okay,
rest.
go ahead, go through the rest. Yes, sir.
Can you provide the monitoring charge for the past 2 years?
Are you speaking about ODOLOG data? Yes, sir.
So you can provide the charge for the past 2 years on the H2S.
Yes, sir. Are you requesting that data?
Yeah.
Okay.
And the use of the thyroid guard in your stations.
Let me ask you, Ms. Evans, Mayor, are you finished?
Please. No, go ahead.
How many customers do you all service using this product?
For ThyroGuard, we have over 500 facilities from the east to west coast.
500 facilities
Yes,
that
sir.
basically use this product for wastewater treatment, waste.
Either directly in the wastewater operation for alkalinity or other performance issues, or in the collection system for odor and corrosion control
And you've been doing business with PEB for how many years?
since 1997.
Chairman, if I may.
97,
And that's not disputed at all.
Okay.
Mayor, how many sites do you have in Texas?
Do you mind if I count them on my fingers? I would say roughly probably 20. We treat the city of Austin, city of Fort Worth, Trinity River Authority, city of Tyler, city of Lufkin, Lower Colorado River Authority, Upper Trinity River Authority. There's more. You just kind of put me on the spot. I'll take a few minutes, but yes.
And that's not fair, you can always come back.
Thank you.
But it's a fact that PUB's wastewater remains the most sulfur-laden of any municipal system in the country.
Yes, sir. To our knowledge, yes.
It's a fact.
Yeah.
The ThyroGuard program began in 1998, okay? Successfully using 5 heat units to address H2S odors emanating from headworks from North Robindale wastewater treatment plants,
Yes, sir.
and causing odor complaints in the Winter Haven residential community at a cost of $300,000 per year.
That was our initial, yes, sir.
That's just for that community?
I'm sorry.
For that community?
Well, that was, again, for the headworks of the treatment plant, and that was in direct response to complaints by that particular group.
4.5 million gallons per day.
So
Yes,
it's a treatment plant that's out there by Winter Haven, instead of like they're running downwind from it. Right, that's it.
So, I mean, we're looking at a cost of $300,000 to $500,000. Okay, and on the 1999 Jim Joyce report, says that magnesium will be discontinued after PUB got the results, and it never happened on that issue there at the Winter Haven. I think it's something we've been talking about since 1999. Because, I mean, I think the report you gave us, we were supposed to look for a better alternative, and we haven't done so. Another alternative, in fact.
Yeah.
So we have failed to pursue what was recommended to us since 1999 at a huge expense, because the report says very clearly that we will save the system enormous amount of money,
Yeah,
and we haven't done
I need to look at what you have.
it. The report you sent me,
Okay.
it's the report you sent me. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And the rest of the board, I appreciate y'all.
Ms. Evans?
Yes, sir.
If there's any other questions, but
One question, how many other products are there besides your product and BioCubes that can do?
That can treat
Yes.
odor and corrosion. Sir, you'll see everything from products called iron salts to Alquip, which is a lime slurry type of thing. There are probably hundreds of products on the market.
Okay, that's exactly my point.
Yes.
That, that's the reason as a board, we're looking at different alternatives.
Absolutely. And that's why, sir, I mentioned.
Cost effective.
Absolutely.
And do the same.
It's actually very imperative that you do exactly what you're doing. No one disputes that. That is totally your right and your responsibility as a board to do exactly what you're doing. Our biggest concern was that we wanted to clarify some of the allegations that were made to make sure that you as a board understood what we felt like would be the correct thing to have on the record. And I just appreciate y'all giving me that opportunity.
I appreciate the presentation, Ms. Evans. Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.
And let me read to you, John, from the report. It says, the long-term goal of this project is to eliminate continuous chemical addition to Brownsville wastewater for under control. It goes on to say, this plan is to install engineering biological control technologies, biostructures, and biofilters, and RAS site recycling to replace the odor control effects of the chemicals. Thus far, we're spending $1,050,000 a year. And I can go throughout the city, as well, everybody can, and we can witness and attest to the fact that the H2S is being dealt with. I get complaints, I get calls, especially from areas like the zoo, especially from areas like Highway 77, but by movies 10. And over there by Robindale, where it's repugnant.
Yeah, but we're not treating everything.
No, I understand that. When citizens are calling, the work is repugnant, and they live there. It seems like we're failing. It has nothing to do with them.
Right,
It has to do with the system.
yeah.
That we're failing to deal with the H2S.
Well, it's a money issue, it's a money issue.
I understand, it's an
I
issue.
mean, you can't.
No, and I agree with that. But I think people have a right to expect us to provide quality air where they can live and breathe.
Yeah,
And if we're spending $1.5 million, and since 1999, it's told us that we're supposed to be moving in a different direction, and we haven't done it, I think it's time that we look at alternatives.
yeah.
We can minimize the H2S to where the quality of air is to where a neighborhood can live and not have to be subjected to that kind of odor. I don't think that's unreasonable to expect.
Just a matter of money there. Just
So
a matter of money.
we're here to look for alternatives
Yeah,
and to save money
yeah.
to where we can do these things.
And we are working on a Robindale plan to do the items, very items you're talking about, what's on the agenda tonight to get that out, so.
Well, I'm just so concerned that since 2099, when we're given that directive, we haven't done
Now we
it
haven't had.
till we brought this issue up to the
I'm not
point.
sure we have the money to do it now, we'll see.
We'll see, we got
Yeah,
to
we'll
look
see.
Thank you,
That's why
John.
we're here, Mayor.
Thank you, John.
Appreciate some of the comments and clarifications, and now we'll go to move up item number 10, which is updated in consideration and approval for the use of biotubes supplied by GM Professional Service Corporation for an odor control pilot study. Jaime?
Chairman, members of the board. Since this item was put together, a lot of things a few things have changed. So just a summary on what's in the agenda item. We did hear a presentation by GM Professional Services on an alternative for water control. And we have contracted Ambiotech to help us out on the monitoring and implementation of this new water control system. GMPS Professional Service did provide a cost proposal for feeding the system. The cost proposal does include the whole system. Ambiotech did provide some options as to how to go about implementing the system.
Chairman, I think Ray wants to say something.
Excuse me, I'm sorry.
At the last meeting, we approved to go with a pilot for the north side and the Robindale plant, right? Is that correct?
That's, yes, sir, we were asked to look into it.
So tonight, the information you're giving us is that we're going to start this immediately, or what is it that you are proposing for us to do?
Well, he's in the middle of his presentation. We just need to hear his presentation.
Mr. Chairman, let me make a point of order. I looked at the tape, and it was very clear, and when you play the tape, I don't think this item can be reopened unless the prevailing side makes a motion to open it. It was decided. It was decided, and it's very clear on the tape. I looked at the tape. We're supposed to divide the north side and the south side. That's what the tape says. We gave you direction to get the contract as to the cost.
Yeah,
That was it. So,
we're trying to bring that cost
okay,
issue down here.
okay, well, then you were supposed to, according to the tape, you were supposed to sit down with GMPS to bring that cost to us. That was decided already. North side, south side, who was going to treat it, and then after they get working on it, okay, you were going to compare
Right.
the cost, the impact on both north and south side. So I don't think this can be reopened for discussion or action.
Well, we're bringing you the cost tonight, Mayor, which we didn't have at the last meeting.
Well,
So
that's
we're
not
gonna
what this
bring you
says.
the cost.
That's not what this says here. It says update and consideration approval for the use of biocubes. We already decided that.
Yeah, and we're bringing you what the
What we
budget's
we
gonna
need to
be.
hear from you is the negotiation that you bring in the cost. If we see that the cost is affordable, like you mentioned before, your concern, money,
Right.
okay? If we see that it's a savings to us, then we tell you to go forward. If not, don't do it. But it has nothing to do with anything else, just the cost. So unless the prevailing side makes a motion to reopen this, I don't think we should be discussing or going to any other thing but cost, which was very clearly on the table.
Excuse me, is that correct, Peter?
Well, he is accepted that the board has to contract with somebody. I mean, the motion was to do a pilot study to include the Robindale plant, okay? Now, I don't think that what is being brought to the board is changing any of that, but the board has to approve the contract that you have to do the pilot study.
Do you have the contract?
I have a form of a
We've got the
contract.
proposal.
I have okay. Do I have a contract from GM or from,
That you negotiated out?
no, sir, we have
That
not.
was clearly on the discussion, and I can play the tape for you, want to play the tape?
And there's no problem, we've got the contract. But, you know, we don't have a contract till we got a price and a scope put in
Well,
there.
that's what you were supposed to bring to, that's what I'm specifically addressing.
We are.
You're supposed to sit down with them, bring to us a contract.
It's right there, man, this price is right here. This is right in the end. Right here.
Mr. Chairman, can we
Yeah, I think,
allow?
and we'll go ahead and focus on this particular item and consider the agenda item as being presented. And Jaime, can you go ahead and continue?
Sure, and we did receive
Just a
some,
point of order. No motion's been made to reopen this. Just a point of order, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, and so we're getting an update in consideration right now. Okay, go ahead, Mr. Estrada.
so basically in Ambiotech's report that they provided, they do provide several options, and we are recommending option A, which basically consists of an initial pilot scale approach followed by a system-wide scale evaluation of the effectiveness of both biocubes and ThyroGuard treatment methods. In this option, the biocubes are used immediately at the same lift stations where the product has been previously used without waiting for development of a system-wide evaluation. So what we plan to do is basically requesting that we approve GMPS's proposal for treating the full system, but actually follow an option where we actually study the product as it goes into the system and eventually start increasing the dosages.
So that goes into the spirit of this pilot project that we had approved before, right? And so, I mean, we're still following the spirit of what we had approved. And so I think that this
That's
is
the
just,
plan, there's nothing changed, Mayor.
Yeah,
but
I think it's just your recommendation, or you're having Abiotech just work with them, monitor them. And I think I had asked Mr. Estrada, I had asked him a couple of questions that I had, and he just, there's different recommendations that we have that they follow also in order not to cause problems. And so he's working closely with the company. The company's gonna work, and they're in communication just to avoid,
Yeah, any possibility, we need to protect the system. We just need to make sure when we implement this product that we're monitoring closely, and then before we start out, I wouldn't recommend putting 180, treating 87 lift stations with BioCube at one. I just wouldn't. I don't know what effects it may have or may not have. So I would rather just look at it in the way Abiotech's proposing and start slowly and bring it in and eventually grow out the project.
Yeah, that goes against what we decided last time. But are you going, you see, that wasn't done with the other company, was it? The tire guard, was that done with the tire guard?
What do you mean?
What you're recommending here with Abiotech?
Well, but I seen for the tire guard, they did a bench testing and they did the whole report on it. And actually, initially they didn't put it on all the system we have right now. It was a small scale.
Well, we did the same thing with GMPS for 18 months.
Well, GMPS came in, yeah, and they were treating trying to help us with the odor control out in the system, but we did not go through a process where we were going to monitor them. It was monitored by both GMPS and some of the PUB staff, but we weren't all aware of what was going on. We became aware of it when we were going to bring it to the board, and it was going to be an amount that the board had to approve.
I would feel more comfortable with a third party, not Abiotech, doing the monitoring. How much is it costing us to hire Abiotech
And I got a proposal from Abiotech for $13,500.
for the whole testing?
Not for the whole testing, just for the initial implementation.
We're gonna be doing some of the monitoring, Mayor, we're not getting it independent on that. We're gonna be doing our own monitoring, but also they're gonna be doing their own monitoring, but we're gonna be doing a lot of that in-house.
And the reason, like I said, from what if you look at the CD, the video, it goes contrary to what you're recommending now. What was decided by the prevailing side was to divide the north side from the south side, treat the north side and treat the south side, compare the impact on the H2S, okay, on the pH, okay, and the TSS, okay, compare that with the south side. That's what our instructions were. And as we go along, we look at the comparison. So now you're opening it up to change what was decided at the last meeting, because the last meeting goes contrary to what he's saying. Last meeting we said GMPS is going to do the north side and Fire Guard's going to do the south side. Now he's saying now we're going to do it limited. It's different.
No, eventually,
That's not the
can you
instructions.
go ahead and clarify some of the concerns of why we're going into this pilot study? I mean,
yeah, we just want to make
We did a
sure.
pilot study.
There's been several, I've been trying to research some of this BioCube, okay, some of the information I've gotten, and, one of the questions I have, will it emulsify the grease or will it eat it? There's different
And
feedback
that's
that I get
what
back.
the purpose was of
That's
dividing
what,
the two systems.
well, but I understood it was going to eat the grease, but my understanding is it emulsifies it, because if we're going to get slugs of grease at the plant, we don't want to treat the whole thing at once. We need to make sure we phase it out. And I just want to mention, because there's been other products that have been wanting to come in to help us with the odor control. It's not just the BioCube. There's been like 3 different vendors on the BioCube.
Yeah,
So-
but this was different. This
Yeah,
was here for
all of them
18
are
months.
different. They all have their own patent.
Yeah, but this one was here for 18 months, and it worked good.
I understand that. And then there was,
Good.
But we don't know that, Mayor. We do not know that.
No, the reports were-
The company reporting is one thing.
No,
The-
the PUB reported. The PUB
In
had
fact,
reports.
we had PV reports saying that.
They were satisfied, they were happy
satisfied.
with it?
Right, and so it came through the normal process of, that we reviewed these things. We actually did a full-blown pilot of this, and we have verifiable data that this is actually something that worked. And if it worked, then fine. And so we put together, the whole idea of this thing was actually to put together the pilot, if I recall correctly as well. Put together a pilot, do a slow rollout, but it's a pilot, right? A pilot can roll out slowly. It doesn't have to happen all in one fell swoop, if I'm not mistaken.
And I just want to mention, that one time there was another, and that was management and wasn't aware of it, but that's because the lift stations were working out there trying to get control of the ordinance on their own. And there was another product that came in which required us to take the dial guard offline. We did it, and in 12 hours, we had a bunch of calls coming in, even up to upper management. That was another flag, so we had to throw in that magnesium hydroxide again. So we have to be very careful when we, because yeah, we can go take out the dial guard and bring in another product, but be prepared to receive calls, and we're gonna have to be reactive. So I'm just thinking the way that Ambiotech's proposing it, I think we phase it in and we start taking the magnesium out, and I think that would be a good start.
And the benefit of this pilot study is just to be able to have a controlled environment
Yes, sir.
to safeguard the possible effects. If there's not any negative effects and all the statements that were said that were positive, then it's going to come out. But if there are some negative effects, we have to be proactive in our approach. And through this process, that's what you're suggesting, that it's a proactive approach in monitoring this whole process, right?
Oh, definitely, and by all means, I think we're all here to save money for the company.
That's my concern, because if we were so concerned with saving money for the system, since 1999, we have not moved forward to do the recommendations that were made to us, okay? And then we bring this to here, and I see nothing but obstacles in trying to implement it, when we're paying $1,050,000 a year, and we're not dealing with it. The smell, the stink is out there. And we have somebody who was here for 18 months and dealt with the problem, minimized the smell, and now I find nothing but obstacles in letting them to continue to do what we know has been proven with the system. And that's a very concern, because the savings compared to $1.05 million for 13 lift stations, okay, to, I don't know what the price is here. What's the price?
$37,000.
$37,000
It comes out to about
per lift station?
It comes out to about $451,000 a year.
How much?
Total for a month.
How much?
$37,000.
$37,000 per month for all of the north and the plant, which I think would cost millions of dollars to continue the old way we're doing things. Now, for 18 months, you didn't complain, did you? Did you complain in 18 months of this system? Do you have any documentation saying that this is not safe, that this was not working? No. There's no documentation there that says it was not working. All of a sudden, nothing but barriers, nothing but obstacles, at a great and huge savings to the citizens of Brownsville, and it dealt with the smell.
But
So,
Mayor,
but you gotta respect, it's my opinion. It's my opinion, it's my opinion. All I'm saying is, I find it very disconcerting that you're approving that it's working with us. All of a sudden, all these roadblocks are there, all of these roadblocks, when we know, go to 77, go to the zoo in that area, it stinks like high heaven, or like high hell, whatever it was.
and
Anyway,
we appreciate
I
your opinion.
That's my
Thank
opinion.
you.
That's right.
Thank you very much for your opinion. Do you have any-
As far as your recommendation, how long will this process take? 1 month, 3 months, 6 months?
The
As
way-
far as so you can come back and report to the board which options, you recommend.
Yeah, on the option A, the way Ambiotech says, he said about 3 months and then see what happens, but I'm hoping that we can move a little bit faster than that. 3 months, I think, is a safeguard to be,
Well,
but if in 2 months we're ready to go with a bigger scope, we'll go with a bigger scope.
There was we were talking earlier and stuff, but when you're using, I don't know, a new product to the system and the dial guard's still in there, you're gonna mix it up, and I'm thinking you may wanna go a little bit longer than 3 months, because what if, we really don't know what these products, what's going on with it.
And that's why we monitor it and see the results. And
Yeah, it needs to, we can't just say, okay, 3 months, that's it didn't work, or it didn't work.
Yeah, another thing we need to keep in mind, that what the dial guard was doing was controlling pH of the plant. Whenever we got calls from Winter Haven, I have talked to Jorge. I don't know, they've got some other products that will control the pH. I don't know what that product is, but it's not the BioCube. I know he's got something else. So that things I need to discuss with him and see what exactly we're going to be doing to be able to address all the issues, so we don't get those calls. And we're not against it.
No, we need to move forward, that's what.
Okay.
We need to move forward and.
Well, let me go ahead and, so the agenda item is for staff recommendation to approve and implement a pilot cost comparison program to proceed with the use of biocubes in conjunction with TireGuard magnesium hydroxide in the pilot project. And so management recommendation is to do a pilot project to look at both products in a controlled environment to see what impacts it can have on the system, so that way before we really open it up for a particular product or the other product, or whatever other products we might consider, that we do it in a controlled environment and not just allow these products to be introduced to our system without proactively manage the whole process. Is that what you're saying?
That's correct.
Mr. Chairman, and as a footnote, I want to add that other municipalities use this product. And people need to be made aware of that. As a footnote, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Mr. Vasquez.
If I may, I would like to make a motion to accept staff recommendation.
I'll second that.
Second, all in favor? Any questions?
Yeah, we need to accept that proposal from GM to go with that, because that's the cost that we'll put together with the contract and the insurance to approve. And that's part of the pilot, but I think the proposal there addresses all the north side of town. I don't think it's short.
That is correct, yeah, it proposes, it's a smaller scale, but if that proposal is approved, we can move forward in making it bigger as
It
we
should be
go.
the maximum approval, maybe a little bit smaller than that.
Did you mention, pardon me, you mentioned earlier, plan A would be to do what they were doing before, correct?
Correct.
And before was the whole north plan?
No, before it was I don't know how many lift stations there were, like maybe
My
like
motion was to accept the installation of plan A.
So we have a motion and a second. Any further clarification?
I just went, because we approved the, I'm not trying to change anything, I just want to be sure that the part of the motion is, because all we have here is their proposal, but if we're going to get into if what we're asking is to do a pilot project we need to enter into a contract, professional technical contract with them, so as to avoid any problems of not bidding this project out, because this is not a sole source product.
It is a sole source.
No, it's my understanding.
And it's a service,
All right, it is, but what I want, we're going to take this proposal and put it into a professional technical contract to present to them, should you all approve that, the motion.
So that's what we've done now.
Well,
That's what
order-
we're doing
Well,
now.
Mayor, we just got the numbers from them yesterday.
But yeah, but you were supposed to sit down and negotiate with
We've
them
been sitting
and
down
to
with
bring it.
They sat down.
Okay, so as far as
But it also, I mean,
You can,
you all need to
add all the
understand.
language, you can do all the spin, but that's what it was. That's what it was. You were supposed to bring a contract. Go ahead.
Well, we couldn't, I don't know what they, my thing is, I want to be sure that you all are, as part of your motion, requiring that they have insurance to protect the system.
All the
Because I want to,
well, we need to do business.
Same
Excuse
as
me.
the other vendor that we have, that's what we're
Of
asking.
course.
And so any vendor that does business with PUB has to provide a professional and technical contract, and so therefore,
The contract, Mayor, is nothing, we can get that, if you approve it tonight, we can do the contract.
I don't have an issue with that, John. What I have an issue with, if you look at the video, it goes against everything you're doing here. And you can put all the spin on you want, but the direction was you bring a contract before the board, which is what the council's advising us to do now. So it's not being done. It's not being done. We're doing all this other stuff, and he's cutting down, not what we said, but it's changed it. And that's okay. I mean, that's okay. If that's what the way the board wishes. But I'm saying is, don't spin it to where it's something like we approved. It's not. Now, bring the contract like Councilor says, and I support, where they meet the requirements, like anybody, I think all of us would support, okay? But we don't have a clear definition of what we expect from them. We don't. That's supposed to be here at this meeting. That was the direct.
We don't have it.
We don't have
We
it.
can have it. I mean,
That's why it shouldn't even be on the
It's
agenda.
no different than any other contract. We don't bring the contracts back to the board, we sign them. Once you authorize it, we do the contract negotiations and I sign.
That would have been nice if you would have told us
that.
that at the last meeting, but you asked us to come back. Your video says you would come back.
You need to come back and approve the dollars, and that's what you're doing tonight. The contract, don't worry about the contract. That's not gonna hold anything up. The approval of this dollar spending tonight is what we needed to go forward. We'll do the contract, that's not gonna hold things up.
And the video said you were supposed to come back with a contract with the cost.
So we got a motion and a second and a clarification that we need to go ahead and enter a contract in a professional, technical agreement that normally vendors deal with the PUB, and that is part of the motion. Is any other questions?
I have a question. With that proposal, option A, is that introducing it? Because when we approved the north side was a lot of lift stations. How is that, is this included already, or?
No, initially it'll start off with the ones they initially started off in, and then we'll monitor it, and then we'll increase it as we go. But we'll have the dollars approved.
Yeah, I think the dollars address the whole north side of what you're approving. So what you're approving in the dollars covers exactly what the mayor said that we would bring back.
The scope hasn't changed, it's just the
The
roll.
scope hasn't changed, it's just how we want to approach it as a board to do it over.
Okay,
Let me ask one question. So what we're really talking about, that before the pilot is complete, that all of these stations on the north side plus the Robindale plan will be piloted?
Provided that, yes, as we go along, provided the pilot shows that we don't have no problems with the system, yeah, we'll continue increasing it, definitely.
How are we going to know, John, I just for clarity, if you're going to have ThyroGuard, you're going to have the BioQ, and if something happens to the plant, who's going to be responsible?
Initially, Mayor, both are gonna be there. Initially, we're gonna phase out the ThyroGuard, and it's gonna be the.
No, but I mean, in the meantime, during the pilot, because I know you have problems.
We're gonna phase out the ThyroGuard during the pilot. We just wanna.
On the north side.
On the north side only.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying, but if an incident occurs, how are you gonna know who to attribute?
Well, for right now, but we have both in there, they're gonna both take the hit,
Not gonna do
but
it.
eventually, we're gonna phase out the.
We have to take them out, they're in the north side there, we just can't shut them down completely.
Okay.
And so we let the experts monitor that process. You know, I mean, we're not experts in the wastewater.
Call for the
Okay.
motion, Mr. Chairman.
There's a motion, a second, and clarification that they will enter to professional and technical contract. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
I'll abstain.
Okay, one abstention. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, we'll go back to the agenda item, general manager's report. Mr. Brusiak?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, one item on the calendar, we are off on Monday for President's Day, will be closed this coming Monday. And then I'll go to the financial report, and I'd like to give an update on the freeze that we had, and a short PowerPoint on the storm, so please wait for the.
We've been going over the financial performance report as of December 31st, 2010. And I think we had a very good first quarter for this fiscal year. Gross revenues year-to-date through December were $39,701,576. $13.5 million came in for the month of December. This includes operating revenues, wholesale revenues, other revenues, interest from investments, and other non-operating income. To get to the adjusted gross revenues, we every month back out the fuel and energy costs, wholesale energy expenses, and our contribution to the Southmost Regional Water Authority operations and debt service. Backing those items out leaves us an adjusted gross revenue amount of $25,532,709. This is the basis, as y'all know, for calculating the 10% transfer to the city, and then reducing the amount by the usage amount. Total requirements on line 17 for the year to date as of December were $17,395,828. This consists of O&M expenses, $11 million, 1.7, and debt service obligations, almost $5.7 million. The balance available to surplus was $7.1 million. Of this amount, $1,534,660 has been transferred to the city as a first quarter cash transfer. This is after reducing the 10% amount by about $1 million in usage. $5.5 million has been retained by PUB to satisfy the items budgeted under CIP funding, line 2025. We have a $7.3 million CIP funding scheduled for this fiscal year, $1.8 million for the first quarter. And then against the $2.5 million economic stabilization account, we did the first 3 months of $625,000. That $625,000 has been transferred to the city as of early February on the 3rd. So we'll continue to accumulate the next quarter's month and then work with the city finance director on the timing of the future disbursements. We did end up the quarter with $3.1 million as our final surplus. We'll continue to monitor this amount as we progress through the end of the second quarter, March, and then perhaps come back and come back with a plan to the board for utilization of those funds. On a comparison with prior year and budgeted amounts, net operating revenues were $38.2 million compared to $40.5 budgeted and $36.3 for fiscal year 2010. This was slightly under budget, $2.3 million. The gross revenues of $39.7 were below budgeted amounts of $42.2 and about $13 million below 2010 levels. Y'all may recall 2010 we did get some monies during the first quarter that kind of skewed the amounts through the year. Adjusted gross revenues after backing out, as I mentioned, the fuel and Southmost were $25.5 million. So that amount is exceeding budget forecast for the first quarter by about $1.3 million. Here again, we're below the actual 2010 because of that one-time revenue we received in 2010. Energy costs have been below budget as well, $12.4 million versus $15.3, a little over 2010 levels. We are maintaining the fuel factor low. For the month of February, we brought it down to 4.1, or increased it to 4.1 after having been at 4 cents for a few months, compared to the 5 cent levels we had in December and January of last year. O&M expenses are $3.9 million below budget, 11.2 versus 15.1. Some of the savings for the first quarter, some of the variance here is attributable to some maintenance and service, outside service type of accounts. But this is a favorable variance, and if it continues, then we'll continue seeing more funds into the final surplus. The balance, as I mentioned, was 7.1, 5.6 was retained for internal uses, POB, and the surplus, and 1.5 has been sent to the city. Electric continues to provide the major part of the surplus of the balance. We are running water and wastewater in the positive. That's good news. We are fulfilling all the obligations as well as the city transfer, and able to drop a little bit of money into the surplus as well from water and wastewater. On the comparison of current year electric sales to last year, we are running a little below the last year-to-date levels. The 1.4% variance, $4.3 million below the 2010 levels. We're at $196 million for the first quarter versus $300 million for the first quarter last year. So we'll probably do a lot better in January and February. This is something that just occurred in the first quarter, but we expect to see more favorable comparisons for January and February. On the water and wastewater both, we saw significant favorable balances in water sales. Precipitation levels have been very low during the first quarter, so water demand has been increasing, or increased during the first quarter. We were 163,622,000 gallons over 2010 levels, or about a 10.7% favorable variance there. Same thing with wastewater. We're for the first quarter 99,944,000 gallons, or 9.5% above the 2010 levels. As I mentioned, precipitation was very low, pretty much nothing during the first quarter as compared to the 2010 actual levels. We had received 5.64 inches in the month of December in the prior year, so very big difference here in precipitation levels. On the temperature side, the temperatures for this fiscal year continue to be in line with the 5-year average, a little over the 2010, but nonetheless in line with the 5-year average there. Our rate comparison with other local utilities continues to be favorable. For the month of December, we were below most of the utilities in our area. There were 4 utilities below us: Reliant for the month of December, Reliant, Amigo, Dynawatt, and StarTex. When you look at the 12-month rolling average, there's really only one that has consistently been below us, which is Dynawatt. So we continue to be very competitive in the area. When compared to other municipal utilities, we're pretty much in line. All the municipal utilities pretty much stabilized as a result of the gas prices and their sources of energy, market prices. We did see a couple, almost 3 of them below us for the month of December: CPS, New Brownsville, and Bryan. We're pretty much in line with San Marcos and Kerrville. On the 12-month average, it's really been just New Brownsville that has consistently been below our 12-month average of $89.61 for our typical 1,000 kWh user. On the CIP side, our overall plan is $104 million for the year, $104,776,900. We have achieved 13.6% expended and encumbered through the first quarter, or $14.2 million. A lot of the funding source for the 2011 plan is commercial paper and the ARRA funding, $27 million in the ARRA funding. We are continuing to utilize prior year CIP or improvement funds applied towards CIP, I say prior year, so we are continuing to work with those projects previously funded. On the ARRA grant, the $46.1 million, through December we had spent $20.7 million, had submitted for reimbursement to the Texas Water Government Board $18 million, and we're pending receipt $2.7 million. We have since received these monies at 2.7, and our overall expenditures have increased by a couple of million as well. This graph illustrates the share of water distribution from our 3 plants. Water plant 1 providing 35.23%, or 722 million gallons. Number 2, 37.68, and our softmost plant 27.09. As a participant owner, we are continuing to receive close to our share of 91.75 of the production from Southmost, and provide here the other participants and their share of water distribution. That concludes our presentation. Any questions? Happy to answer.
Thank you, Osvaldo.
Thank you very much, Joe.
Yeah.
We'll go ahead and go to item number 4, which is the quarterly investment activity report for a period ending December 31st, 2010.
Chairman, I wanted to briefly report on the storm if I could.
Okay, go ahead.
It'll take a second. I do have a PowerPoint here to show you real quick. We did have a major ice storm on February 3rd. We closed the offices. We got about 320 employees remaining during the storm. I did send the board a packet of information on the storm. I won't go into detail. We did have rolling blackouts caused by ERCOT requesting it twice during the storm. And I'll just stop. We did set an electric peak demand of 300 megawatts February 3rd, which was an all-time peak for Brownsville. Our previous was, I think, 267. We deactivated the emergency plan Friday evening, Friday morning at 8 a.m. on the 5th. The first blackouts occurred on Wednesday at 5:44 in the morning, and we had to shed about 17 megawatts of load, affecting about 3,400 customers. By 1:07 that day, that blackout ceased, and we got service back up to those customers. On Thursday, the 3rd, at 10:40 p.m., we were advised that we were going to have to shed 50 megawatts of load, and that affected 10,000 customers. Luckily, that only occurred for a couple hours late in the evening, occurred at 10:40 p.m., and by 12:32, we were back in service, so that was a good thing. Caused of that were power plants around the state being out and caught off guard by the ice. We did have sporadic power outages without the blackouts. We had 5 major feeder systems operate and cause outages during the storm, and that totaled about 5,000 customers that we had to get back into service. By Saturday evening, February 5th, all service was restored to all the customers that had lost power during the winter storm. I think our employees did an excellent job with this. I know some of the other systems were in the thousands and thousands of customers that were out of service, and they performed very admirably, I think, during this event, and worked through some tough conditions, as you'll see in the brief PowerPoint here that we got. So, is there any questions of the board? I know I sent a lot more detail to you in the packet, but just wanted to hit the high points of the.
John, I for one want to thank you as mayor that you keep me informed, because a lot of citizens call me when they have issues with power outages, and it helps me to respond. And I commend the system and all the employees and yourself for being there so local in response to the needs of the community, to where it was minimized. The inconvenience was minimized. And I think we have something to be very proud of as compared to other companies who service certain parts of the community but are not local. And the downtime was a lot longer, or citizens felt that they didn't have somebody who would listen to the concerns and address them. So
You did a good job communicating to the board and city commission on much of the information that I received or staff received. I tried to get to you, within the board.
Thank you so much.
So you know where that is. No, would want to just go through this.
John, if I may,
Sure.
I'd like to publicly commend and express our appreciation of some of our staff, especially Eddie's group, all his customer service staff who spent a couple of days here away from family, his IS staff, as well as our garage staff and warehousing staff who were there to assist Fernando's staff, which I'm sure he wants to commend as well. They all came together. John implemented the incident command emergency plan, and like I say, Eddie's staff and other involved staff just stepped up to the plate, and they knew what they needed to do, and we're there to handle all the dispatching of the calls that were coming in. So I'd like to thank Eddie.
Congratulations.
Okay, do we want to run that real quick? It won't take but a minute to run this through. Just some slides of the storm and the event. I know you all saw.
It was cool.
Our staff took these pictures during the storm event. Should be moving.
I'm missing the music.
every time.
As he waits for that, you know, one thing that I want to add about what's the difference between the PUP staff and the other utilities in the area. We had a conference call with the Texas Public Power Association groups, the other cities, and I really believe it's the experience that we've had with all of the storms that come through here on what seems to be now a pretty regular basis. But our staff works 24 hours a day. When you look at some of the other companies and competitors, they stop at midnight and you're just gonna have to wait till the next day when they get rolling to get started. I think that's the biggest sacrifice that our staff makes to this community, but it certainly makes the biggest difference. So most of the pictures you'll see is people that are working in the middle of the night. So as Nando has commended his staff, I would also like to offer my thanks and appreciation to Leandro and his group and to my group personally for staying up and keeping the lights on for a lot of people.
I know that in speaking to some people that were affected by the rolling blackouts or by the heater systems that went down, that they really appreciated the PUB staff working hard in the cold conditions, you know, working to get the system up. And so I think that speaks volume for having a local public utility board that is very sensitive to the needs of the citizens during times like this. So on my behalf, I want to commend the staff and the management for the wonderful job that they did. It's an awesome picture.
It was quite an event.
Yeah, but the rolling blackouts is nothing. Rolling blackouts was 30 minutes at a time.
Yeah.
It's when the feeders, the transformers, or something went wrong,
Yeah.
they had to respond to it, or high winds, cold weather,
Right.
dangerous conditions, and they did. They got people restored, and I think the outages were minimized for a very short period.
Yeah, I agree, Mayor. It was very short duration. That's all we have. We just a few slides to show you the event. So that's all I have.
Mr. Chairman, I have another meeting, unfortunately, as mayor. Sometimes I don't have enough time in the day, but I have another meeting to go to. May I be excused? You're welcome to. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Thank you all. Excuse me.
Mr. Chair, can I go to item number 1, just to report for the purposes of the minutes, report that in executive session, we did not take any action other than that authorized by law.
Thank you very much for that clarification. Okay, we'll go to item number 4, Leandro Quarterly Investment Activity Report.
I have a brief presentation I'm going to go over here real quick for the investment results for the quarter ended December 31st, 2010. And this is to satisfy the requirements of our Public Funds Investment Act, which we comply with. We have several types of investments here that are being listed here in this one sheet. We have agency securities, which involve procuring or buying securities through various broker dealers. A list of them are here. Then we have our bank deposits, and those securities totaled $56,485,969 and took a share of 38.5% of our portfolio. We had yields ranging from 0.5% or 50 basis points up to 1.2% or 1.13, so very low yields here. The next big amount here, 13 million, is our deposits with our depository bank, Wells Fargo, earning a yield of 39 basis points. And this is something we had incorporated in the agreement. What they're giving us is the 91-day treasury plus 25 basis points as the earned credit. We have investments with several pools, which total 68 million and took a share of 46%. Those were yielding also very, very low. Most of them are daily rates, which are coming in very low. Through the first quarter, we had $7 million in certificates of deposits through two banks, the CDARS program, earning 1% and 0.38. The big amount here, the $5 million, did expire or terminate in January, and unfortunately Falcon Bank did not at this time plan to continue with that program. So all we have at this point is Frost Bank to deal with on the CDARS program. Falcon Bank decided not to continue participating in the CDARS at this time.
So then what do you do with that $5 million?
It got reinvested into the pool, or we made it available for agency securities. It did come back to us with the interest as agreed to. So for the next quarter, we'll just be reporting the $2 million under this CDARS program, unless we get into another type of program with certificates of deposit. We did have $1.5 million in treasury notes as well, bringing us a 1.13 yield. Overall, our yield to maturity for all of the instruments here was 0.5% or 50 basis points. And I'm going to show you here in a little bit how that has changed since 2007. I'm required to report to you the share so that you can know that we're diversified in our portfolio. The investment policy does not allow us to exceed 75% on some of these types of instruments. Our investment pools were 46.5, treasury notes were 1%, CDs 4.8, bank deposits 9.2, and 38.5 for agency securities. I wanted to share with you a comparison between our portfolio and what's called the S&P's Government Investment Pools Index. The blue line shows the S&P's index, and what it is S&P provides averages of pools out there that are investing in comparable types of securities that we invest in, government agencies, treasury bills, repurchase agreements collateralized with agency securities, those type of safe, low-risk investments. It is a key indicator for various pools to benchmark because any significant gaps may alert the user that that pool may be entering into risky type of investment. So since this is a curve, the blue one that provides safe risk in the types of instruments, that's why it's used as a benchmark. Our investments have performed somewhat better because we also had the CDARS program investments and the good earnings credit that we had with Osterwalder at one point that was well over 4.5%. So we've kind of followed the same trend, as I mentioned, as what S&P puts out there. So just want to share with you for illustrative purposes. And that is a quick update on the investment pool.
Thank you, Mr. Garcia. We'll continue now with item number 5. Mr. Garcia, presentation discussion on economic market update on term refunding analysis for PUB 2005A, 2005B junior league bonds.
Yes, back in September, the board did approve for PUB to go on and refund 2005 A and B junior lien bonds. We then took it to the city commission later in September, and then started working with the legal counsel, our financial advisor, during the month of October with a planned market date in November. Unfortunately, the market wasn't as favorable as it had been during the summer and early fall, and we have Jorge Garza here to do a market update. The refunding did not take place as planned, but at this time we are pursuing taking it back to market with some savings still that can be achieved.
Mr. Garcia, before you continue, what was the amount in the summertime? And what's the difference when you say not favorable? What amount are you looking at?
There were some significant changes in the market And the benchmark here is, and Jorge's going to cover it, we had over $1 million in savings being projected at that time. Savings now are going to drop more than half of that. You know, it's going to be in the 400,000 range.
That was in November.
That was in November. Well, that's today. You know, comparing September expectations to today's market, it dropped significantly. The savings, as a result of market changes and interest and other things that were happening with the market, such as the inundation of with Build America bonds, that because they were to expire in December, there was a rush to the market by other major entities, governmental entities, putting out their $500,000, I mean $500 million or even over $1 billion deals. So our $12.5 million wasn't as competitive, and Clark is going to cover some of those indicators that we were up against during that time period.
Thank you, Mr. Garcia. Let's see. Next. Just roll along. Just roll along. Right? Just roll along. Okay. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Jorge Garza with Estrada Hinojosa, thank you for having me here today. The most important chart for us to look at here is the one that's in the upper right-hand side. And what I'd like for you to look at is what occurred between August of 2010 and which was about the time that the refunding received its approval, August, September, and it takes us about 60 to 90 days to get ready to go into the market, and how much rates spiked up. As Leandro mentioned a moment ago, it was really the end of the year effect, and the fact that Build America bonds were expiring at the end of the year, and an onslaught of issuance occurred at that time. I'll show you very specifically in the next page how that affected us. But if you can see here, from pretty much December, almost a couple, 3 months here, we saw a real big movement in those rates. Yes, okay. This next, here's some points. We started at about August, September. By October, we already had some news coming out as to the amount of volume that was going to be coming in. We tried to get into the market on November 10th and November 16th, and we found that the rates that were available for the board were not acceptable. So a decision was made in December 8th to pull back, and you'll see very specific numbers here in this page, number 6. We went from September 8th, approximately $1 million, to the point where this market was really getting away from us. And the 2 attempts we got in, these were the desired results, savings at the $600,000 level completely disappeared by year end. Today, we're in the $400,000 present value savings, all savings, and we are suggesting that you move forward, principally because these bonds are callable. They can be refinanced at no penalty, and no escrow has to be created, so your savings become immediate. They are, every day we wait is a day in which we don't capture a savings and interest rate by sitting here. The true interest cost, if I could show you here, has really moved away from us. It was 2% back at that time in September and October. It's pretty much over 1% greater now. in the 3% range when we take the average cost. Here's the bonds that you are refinancing. The bonds range from a rate of 3.7 to 5%. So we're replacing those bonds with a 3% all-in rate. That's an immediate savings. Every day there is a savings result to take out these bonds that are held by the Texas Water Development Board, and they're principally bonds for your wastewater system. So the benefit of savings go directly to the wastewater utility. Here is the annual savings presented, and this is today's results, or the results that we showed you as of last week when we came to the Finance Committee of the board. It's approximately $467,000 overall. Net present value is $409,000, about $54,000 a year in savings to do this. We have a timeline. This is just, again, more summary, but the timeline is we are bringing you an update, and we would like to get into the market at the end of February and close this transaction within 30 days approximately after that. Yes, sir.
Andrew, back in November, if you would have sold, what the savings have been?
Back in November, the savings were this number here that we're showing you was not achievable. This is what we thought we could get, but with the volume, I don't think I've got you the volume, but the market was moving away so fast that we couldn't even pinpoint the rate in which we were offering. We showed it to buyers twice here on November 10th with Stevens and Company was the underwriter, and we showed it again on the 16th. And on both those days, the yields were moving away, and buyers weren't even accepting it at the rates that we were showing. Today, we're not seeing this kind of dramatic move. It's almost like we couldn't catch the rate. These results that I'm showing here, you hear are where we thought we were, but we couldn't even catch those rates. So this is the picture in a point in time where we asked, where are we? And by the time we got to the market the very next day, they were moving away, and we couldn't even place it.
Again, I'll ask you the question that I asked you 3 times at the Finance Committee meeting, and I don't think it was ever answered. What were the rates back in July and August? Were they the same as we had in September? Because I looked into that.
Back in July and August.
July and August?
Yes, well, July and August would have looked closer to your September interest
Exactly.
rates. Yes.
Why didn't we take that approach as a financial advisor? Why didn't we get advice to go ahead and renegotiate those renegotiate it then, and we could have capitalized in September and saved over $1 million?
We were not able to get an authorization from the board or the city council to proceed with the refunding.
Oh, the board did not vote on that? Was it presented to the board?
Yes, we brought this financing as early as June, July, August, September. I attended a meeting in July. Larry Jordan came in August. There was a lot of deliberations going on as you approached your both the city and the board's budget approvals, and there were just items that even to make that a little bit clearer, I could not have predicted that this was going to run away from us as
No,
fast.
but what I could have predicted, one thing I was saying back then, it was the rates were at an all-time low. They weren't going any lower than what they were, and we're not going to see them there again, more than likely. So, I can, personally, I don't recall ever getting that percentage to the board as far as getting it to refinance and the savings we're going to have. I don't recall that. Maybe it's my mistake.
I'm sorry, Mayor. Didn't we pass it on to they asked us for permission
in September.
Yeah, we had the board consider on September 15th, but prior to that, we had a finance committee, maybe the week before, a couple of weeks before. But because it is dead, then we took it to the city commission on September 27th, I believe, last week in September. And then that's when we began with the final preliminary official statement that we had to prepare. That's what we call the prospectus, as well as any other of the other legal reviews. We began the rating agency discussions and presentations. So
No, I understand all that. I'm saying we should have taken action prior to that, back in July, when the rates were, the same as they were in September, and we could have capitalized in September and had the savings of over $1 million. That's my thing. We could have taken action.
And I agree. We could have begun this process, early in the summer, in the spring. All indications were that things were very favorable. It was just the timing didn't work out for us.
Is there anything from learning in this process that we can do to maybe trim the process to where we can react faster? Because it seems that there's a lot of steps that you have to go through to get the refunding done, right?
Yes, there is.
And so that has a lot of impact on the time element, right? And so is there anything that we can do as a board to help you to maybe?
Well, one of the things that I'd like to consider, and the next set of bonds, our 2005 A and B, the big bonds that were issued in 2005 have a call date of 2015. And upon us nearing that callable, because we want to wait until they're currently callable. Some of them were refunding bonds, so there's IRS rules that you can advance refund them per se, so you have to wait until they're callable. Prior to the call date is begin the process with all of the steps, some of the steps that we can accomplish, like coming to the board, going to the commission, and then once they're callable, have some of those already, accomplished, and then just, wait and see, if we can secure a 12-month authorization from the commission, where they grant us approval to do the refunding, and it's good for 12 months. If we don't accomplish it in 12 months, we can go back. Right now, we have, I think state law allows 6 months. So that's where we're kind of coming back and try to fit it in within the 6-month window. If we plan better and anticipate and accomplish all those requirements prior to the call date, I think we can then be ready to pull the trigger when the market's favorable.
On another note, on the commercial paper, the $50 million that were outstanding, was that refinanced from short-term to a payout?
No, it wasn't. It was excluded from the refunding scenario because after further analysis, those outstanding obligations are wastewater related, and they weren't going to fit into the budget for debt service. Right now we're only paying interest at 0.3%, 30 basis points. To do a full debt service on that $15 million for wastewater would have required rate adjustments, which we're still haven't achieved, but we're working on it. I'm planning the rate.
As a board, did we approve that to go ahead and go with the long-term, short-term, get it out of short-term and put it in long-term financing so we could take advantage of the low rates?
Yeah, you asked us to look at it, but based on the analysis, it wasn't feasible.
So the analysis, we don't have the debt service coverage to go ahead and put in a long-term basis?
At this point, for water and wastewater, no. We would need a corresponding rate increase of some sort, yes.
Okay, that's my question then. And then once we approve it here, personally, I thought, it was a done deal. But then, okay, say you didn't do it. I was with the understanding we had taken care of that, and we're going to have savings also on that $50 million commercial paper. So when it doesn't get done, but the board approves, how, time frame that you all come back and report to the board, this was not done?
Well, it was to coincide. We had to coincide it with the rates, and we're not saying we're not going to do it. It's still being looked at, but at this point, it doesn't. We can't cover debt service. And I guess today is the official notice, because since you hadn't heard of that, we still have the 50 million outstanding, and we're currently funding some of the projects that I report to you every month, 25 million in authorization. And until the timing, until the financial advisor can help us achieve.
The rate we're paying in the short term on those 15 million compared to the long term, we said the split was very minimal.
No.
Because, well, it was less than 1%.
We're currently paying 30 basis points. If we were to go out on a deal right now that takes out that 15 million over 10 years, we'd be paying 3%, up to 3.5%. Maybe more, but yes, right now we're paying less than 0.5%.
Okay, that's right now. When we approved it, it was at 2 point something, I recall.
The rates were, I don't know if you have them here.
No, it didn't.
They were that low for the short term. They were still at the end, at the tail end, close to 3 or maybe slightly under 3. I don't recall what those numbers were.
My question, Chairman, is that, personally, I thought the board had approved it. I thought it was a done deal, it had been done, and over the long term, there was at least, substantial savings. And that's what I'm getting at, is that, okay, if it's not done, how much time before we get, the report back?
Well, on the commercial paper, fixing the commercial paper, it's not really for savings, it's just to open up pay that credit card and open up credit for more projects. Because it's not like the refunding where you're lowering existing rates and achieving savings, and the savings really that you see here, which were over close to 100,000 before, actually are savings in the budget. I think we showed you at that point that we did the analysis, the impact of new debt service, and it was going to require 100,000, 200,000, maybe more in annual debt service requirements plus coverage, and the budget couldn't sustain that. So I'm not sure if we communicated that well at the point when we did the numbers for the fixing, but maybe I'll definitely work better on that to make sure that all.
Well, we have other items, and we need a workshop on this. I think, Mr. Garcia, we can consider
Absolutely.
a workshop, but let's continue with we have a bunch of other items that we need to get out of the way. So I hope that we've clarified a lot of the questions, and please proceed forward, Mr. Garcia.
Okay. So this was not an action item, this was just an update on number 6. And as Jorge highlighted, we're going to be going to market next week and hopefully close in April. Number 7?
Okay, item number 7.
No, sorry. I'm sorry, number 6.
Okay, item number 6, consideration approval of resolution by the Board of Trustees of Public Utilities Board requesting the City Commission to approve an ordinance authorizing certain actions relating to outstanding obligations, designating the City of Brownsville, Texas Utility System Commercial Paper Notes, Thursday, including approval of a third amendment to letter of credit reimbursement agreement, authorizing the distribution and use of a commercial paper memorandum and other matters in connection therewith. Mr. Garcia.
Yes, this item seeks your authorization so we can proceed on a resolution for us to proceed with the City Commission on extending our current letter of credit for our commercial paper program. The way this, which is about to expire on July 1st, 2011. We did a second amendment back in 2008, extending it for 3 years at a rather favorable rate, or 2-tier rates, in order to maintain liquidity and commitment requirements for a letter of credit as the actual marketer goes out and markets and the commercial paper, and as it matures, we need some backing, some letter of credit backing. At this time, Jorge's going to have a presentation, but we're going to be seeking the option. You often consider the option of extending it versus opening up for RFPs for other banks. We have been working with State Street and attaining a good rate based on the current market, that the banks are having to operate under. So I'll let Jorge do some coverage on that.
Thank you. Let me start here. This is the current situation.
State Street Bank provides a letter of credit. They have ratings of A1 and P1. P1 is the highest short-term rating available. They provide the board a $50 million letter of credit. Currently, the pricing of this letter of credit is 35 basis points for unutilized amounts and 65 basis points for utilized amounts. Today, I believe you have $27 million outstanding that will probably rise into the $35 million inside this next year. The letter of credit was available for 3 years and terminates on July 1st of 2011. Under the provisions, the board must give notice of either the cancellation or the desire for an extension of the letter of credit by March 1st. So your option, you have an option to extend, and then the bank must notify you on pricing, and then you have the option to accept that pricing or not. We have taken some steps. Let me go back and tell you that today's market is very different from the market you had in 2008, almost 3 years ago. If you remember the banking crisis of 2008, there was a large amount of letters of credit expiring that were renewed either in 2008 or 2009. There's 11 billion, 10 billion, and 13 billion coming to you in the months of April, May, and June. European banks, through various reasons, mainly legal and regulatory, are not participating as much as the U.S. banks, and as you know from the crisis of 2008, we've seen a consolidation of banks. How does this affect the board? The effect of the board is that we are seeing tighter provisions, requesting more legal covenants from the board if we were to pursue opening this up to the broad banks. Secondly, it's attainable, but it's going to be more expensive. Let me give you an idea. Here's what we have talked to State Street, and then I'll come right back to this if I could, because I wanted to tell you that we have also spoken to U.S. Bank and Union Bank and J.P. Morgan, Wells Fargo, Barclays, and others to determine where rates are. But State Street has come back in our outreach to them to find out, number one, would they be interested in extension and what levels. They've come back with a 1 and 2 and 3 year pricing levels into 2 tiers, where there's an unutilized rate and a rate for utilized amounts, and they've also come back with a flat rate. We believe that the that 3-year proposal is your best proposal. It gets us kind of away from what we're seeing, even the renewals coming due, and they've offered a rate that is greater than what you're paying today. You have 35 basis in unutilized and 65 in utilized, and they are offering you 75 basis points and 120 basis points, or a combined rate, flat rate of 105. Because you're going to have a substantial amount, meaning around the $35 million level in outstanding, we believe that this flat rate is going to be better for you, and Leandro is going to give you some very specifics on it. But I have a very comparable, couple of comparable pricings to show you. We were advisor to the Denver International Airport on a letter of credit we just renewed for them, in which we got 3 proposals for 3 years from banks that were in the same category, and we received flat rates there of 125, 130, and 120. This was a complete RFP. We are having to we've renegotiated documents with U.S. Bank. This is who we stayed with because some of the provisions put on by J.P. Morgan were not acceptable to the Denver airport. But a similar rating as the board, and from the pricing there and these others that we have contacted, we believe that 105 basis points puts you at a very favorable pricing level. 105 basis points on top of your current rate that you're paying for commercial paper that's in the 30 basis points, which could go up, is still 135 basis points for your outstanding commercial paper. We think it's still a very good rate. The last page, if you do an extension, there's very little additional pricing because we don't have to go in and renegotiate documents. And by the way, we asked them what provisions we would have to look at. And it's really the only provisions are that if they ever hold their bonds or hold the paper as a draw on the letter of credit, that within 3 months of their request, that we would seek a rating on that outstanding paper, which is not unreasonable. If we had to pursue a new letter of credit, we'd have the startup costs, which are in this general range for bank counsel fees and startups. The recommendation from Estrada Hinojosa after our conference call with State Street and along with your staff is that you seek the extension of the letter of credit with State Street Bank and let us pursue the price. It's a very, I believe, a very aggressive pricing on their behalf. Again, we don't have to get into these issues of providing them with new reporting and other requirements that we're starting to see, which are more cumbersome to go forward. So that's our recommendation. I think Leandro's got some further items.
I just want to say, here again, the higher outstanding obligation we have, and we're looking at if you have 50 million, if we carry about 35 million in outstanding, the flat rate would be more beneficial at 105 versus the two-tier of 75 and 120. It's just overall, the timing of when we bring the balance down is going to be subject to when we have the base revenues from wastewater and water to sustain that service. We do anticipate you continuing to utilize the commercial paper. We have some projects in the spending plan that call for commercial paper funding. Also, in the event that we see a justifiable need to put more money in the Robindale, commercial paper would be the first option. So we do have a need to continue this program. With the approval of the resolution today, I'll proceed with notifying State Street of our intent on the extension, to come through on the extension, and then get on the City Commission agenda for their approval, because it is delayed.
Thank you, Mr. Garcia and Mr. Garza, for a good presentation. So it is staff's recommendation to seek an extension with State Street Bank for a period of 3 years at a flat rate of 105 basis points.
Correct.
So you're looking for authorization to proceed forward with this action item.
Correct.
I have a motion. A motion by Mr. Garcia, second by Dr. Morales. All in favor? Aye. Okay, Mr. Garcia, you have your recommendation that we're supporting. Thank you. On item number 7, which is consideration approval of bid award of annual supply of general stock, Mr. Garcia.
Yes, we have about 97 general stock items that purchasing went out and solicited bids. 6 of them require casting of lots, and Diane Solitaire is going to be identifying those, and then 1 will require awarding based on a recommended 5% local rule. So we do have the casting of the lots, and then
Let's go ahead and proceed forward with the casting of the lot.
Good evening.
Good evening.
This is for the general stock items. They're just everyday items that are used by the crews. And we have, like Mr. Garcia said, several items that the vendors provided the same price, so you all need to select. So the first item is item number 38. It's either going to be Alamo Iron Works or Security, Safety, and Supply. Okay, item number 39, Alamo Iron Works or Security, Safety, and Supply.
Security, safety, and supply.
Item number 40, also to Alamo Iron Works or Security, Safety, and Supply.
Alamo Iron Works.
Item number 41, also to Alamo Iron Works or Security, Safety, and Supply.
Alamo Iron Works.
Item number 42, for Alamo Iron Works or Security, Safety, and Supply.
Security, safety.
Item number 43, for Alamo Iron Works or Security, Safety, and Supply.
Alamo Iron Works.
And item number 91, to Wesco Distribution or Pyramid School Products.
Wesco.
And item number 76 was if you are in agreement, we would award to border states for the local 5% rule. The
Staff's
local,
recommendation is for the, if we're in agreement for the 5% rule to award it to the local vendor. Is there a motion? Second, Mr. Vasquez, all in favor? Aye. Thank you.
We need an approval of the rest of the bid.
Also, we need to,
okay, I can read the staff recommends approval of the annual supply stock to the following low bidders meeting specifications. Pacific Forwarding of Brownsville in the amount of $518.40. Corpus Christi Distributors of Brownsville, Texas in the amount of $13,325.60. EJ Wipers of Brownsville, Texas in the amount of $4,080. Stroud Safety Apparel of Stroud, Oklahoma in the amount of $14,476.80. Stuart C. Irby of San Antonio, Texas in the amount of $1,225. And Border States of Brownsville in the amount of $5,329.92. Wesco Distribution of San Antonio in the amount of $55,757.16. Alamo Iron Works of San Antonio, Texas in the amount of $13,928.80. Security, Safety, and Supply of Houston, Texas in the amount of $34,639.70. And Pyramid School Products of Tampa, Florida in the amount of $4,244.52 for a total amount of $147,525.90 with a casting of lots of $18,888 for a grand total amount not to exceed $166,413.90.
we have a motion. Mr. Vasquez, second. Mr. Nakman, all in favor? Aye. Thank you. The next item on the agenda is item number 8. Consideration approval to request bids for electric vehicle pilot project. Mr. Hernandez.
Give me just a second. Here we go. Chairman, members of the board, this is really in response to a suggestion made by the City Commission. Some of the members of the City Commission, when PUB brought its budget presentations before the commission. They had asked us to take a quick look at maybe looking at some electric vehicles, as members of the public were asking some questions regarding electric vehicles and just having PUB maybe do some PR work in that regard. One of the things that we looked at when looking at electric vehicles was you have hybrids, which are electric and gas, and then you have 100% electric. The only vehicle that we really took a look at out there were 100% electric-driven vehicles, and the most affordable one that we could find was the Nissan Leaf that's actually being produced at this point in time. There are a lot of vehicles that are being promoted out there, but they're not in production, or the orders are, they may be a year or so away. Just a little bit of information on the Leaf. It has a range of about 73 miles on a charge. It would take us, we would be using this method up here, the 240 volt, so it would take us about 7 hours to charge the vehicle. The cost of the vehicle is about $33,000. Some of the pros on using the vehicle are that, no more gas stations. It's spacious, it's quiet. No oil changes, a little bit less maintenance in that regard. Some of the cons are limited cruising range, limited recharging points. We'd actually have to install some here at PUB. And obviously, if it was an individual, you'd need a home charger. Here are some comparisons that we did on the Leaf versus a Nissan Versa, which is just a comparable size vehicle, gas vehicle, versus a Chevrolet Silverado, which is basically the type of vehicle that we're using right now out in the field. As you can see, the Leaf would cost you about $565 a year in electricity. The Nissan Versa, a vehicle of that size, would cost you about $1,500 in gas a year, and the Silverado would cost you about $2,700 in gas per year. What we're looking at, or what we're proposing, is if we did get a couple of these vehicles, we would probably want to use them with the meter readers, something like that, where they're out in the field and they can be seen every day, rather than office staff where they would spend most of their life in a parking lot. So if we did go this route, we'd want to get them out into the public so that they could be seen, and in that regard. And I think that's really the end of the presentation. What we're looking for is some direction from the board if you want to proceed down this path, or if you're not interested. Do you have any questions at this time?
Is there any questions from the board?
What's the comparison, you said the Leaf against the Versa, what's the price of a brand new Versa?
The price of the Versa, I'm not sure. But remember, the Versa is just an all-gas vehicle.
No, I don't understand that, but I was just saying, what's the price of the difference? Because you're paying $33 versus...
Now, well, what we're using currently is more like the Silverado, and those trucks cost us, I did ask what the price of the vehicles that we're using now, and it's about $12,000 versus the $33,000 for the all-electric vehicle. So it is more expensive.
I'm sorry, $12,000 meaning what?
$12,000 for the trucks that we currently use out in the field.
That's how much it would cost to buy a Silverado?
Correct. Well, not necessarily the type of vehicle that it's a truck the truck models that we use.
So that's a savings of $21,000 right there versus, that's more as far as going green than the savings.
It's not exactly, sir. Exactly.
Okay, so the purpose of this, besides in discussions that the city commission suggested that we take on this project, is to provide us an educational tool for the public that they can provide an electric car, or what are the other benefits that you're all considering besides cost savings?
The PR benefits would be, actually cost savings. The vehicle will cost you more up front. It'll take a while to make it back, as you can see on the fuel versus the electricity. It'd take years.
So $1,000 takes you to
Yeah, it would be about 2,000 a year, so if you're looking at 10 years. I mean, if you want to look at it that way, in all honesty. So the benefits, why would we want to do this? Basically, it's a PR campaign just to look at electric vehicles. Since we're the local utility company, people will be looking to us for that kind of information, and so we have some firsthand knowledge of it.
So it's an introduction to the community that we would be the first ones to be using
Right.
an electric vehicle.
Correct. Now, for individuals, one point I would like to make is as an individual, if you go out and you purchase one of these vehicles, there were some tax credits that were accessible to you that as a company we can't get. So for an individual, it might make more sense than for us in that regard. But
And what is staff's recommendation?
staff's recommendation is to proceed with the pilot and purchase a couple of the vehicles.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea. A lot of the other public power systems in Texas all have them to some degree. It's, we can do it for Brownsville. To try some and show them. It's, promoted with things coming. So.
I'll make a motion.
Yes, Mr. Rossi.
What about the post office? What do they carry? What do they have?
I haven't. In all honesty, I couldn't tell you.
I heard they were here cars.
Not that I'm aware
We
of.
can check, but I wasn't aware that they were on.
I don't think they have enough power to go the whole 8-10 hours or anything like that.
Yeah, now they do a lot of driving. One of the reasons, and that was one of our main concerns, is with electric vehicles, it's the amount of driving that you can actually do with the vehicle, because it's not like your car where you can just jump in and go. They have that 73-mile range. But since our meter readers do, they'll drive, they'll stop, and they do a lot of walking, and then they'll drive to another location and stop, we think it'll work. Somebody like a post office person, it wouldn't work. It wouldn't be a good application for, because they're constantly driving.
Don't get me wrong, I have for the idea, I was just thinking that it was a post office, maybe I'm wrong. Another question, Mr. Chairman.
We'll look into it.
Home connection, this car wouldn't go home to an employee's house. It would
No, they would be here.
For the,
We'd have to set up the connections here.
Okay, this is an action item to have a motion. Dr. Morales has a motion to approve staff recommendation for obtaining bids for 2 electric vehicles. Second by Mr. Nagda. All in favor? Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Okay, I guess we did item number 9, number 10. Item number 11, update on water meter replacement and leak detection projects. Mr. Estrada.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board. With Norma sending out, I'll go ahead and I'll touch base on those 2 maps. Basically, they're just those black dots you're looking at. It's where we replaced all the meters. And the next map is where we found leaks, but I'll talk about those. And I got another slide show you for presentation. Basically, just during the June 14, 2010 board meeting, a water meter replacement project that consisted of replacing a total of 12,620 meters was approved. In addition, during the August 9, 2010 meeting, we also approved a water leak detection project. These 2 projects were part of the 2007 water audit recommendation and have since been completed. A total of 10,314 meters were replaced by RG3 Utilities, who was awarded the contract. The remainder of the 12,628 meters, approximately 2,314, were simultaneously replaced by PUB's water meter shop. In addition, the production meters at water plant 1 and 2 were also replaced with full body mag meters, which is a more reliable meter base based on the demand and output of the water plants. The water leak detection project was awarded to New York Leak Detection and covered testing approximately 220 miles. A total of 214 were done by them. They did, what they surveyed were the AC water lines, and basically where we had a lot of calls that we had previously addressed. A total of 39 leaks were found in that area, in those areas that were surveyed. PUB's current water loss for the last 3 months in 2010, for this year after the implementation of these projects was 16.2% as compared to 26.6% in 2009. In order to get a more accurate account of the improvements that on PUB's water loss, staff will continue to monitor results for a full year and report back to the board with informational purposes. I just want to make a comment. So when Mr. Garcia was doing the presentation on his financial report, I noticed that the last 3 months of 2010, there was a 10% increase in water sales. And it's coincidence, but we reduced losses by 10% in those 3 months as well. So I don't know, could it be tied in? Possibly.
Well, the precipitation and then probably this 10% improvement also, I'm sure, has an impact. So I agree with you on that point.
As the time goes by, I think we're gonna see a good positive result out of these 3 projects.
Were you going to say something?
No.
And basically, just for the PUB water system in 2010, we have a total of 624 miles of water lines, 47,361 water accounts, 8.1 billion gallons are produced per year, 6.485 billion gallons of sales. If you do the math on the 8.1 and the 6.4, it's approximately 20%. We are showing a 10% loss for 2010. Some of the background on the water audit, basically it's an assessment of the distribution, metering, and accounting operations using accounting principles to determine how much water is being lost and where. Where do water losses come from? Inaccurate and failed meters, system leakage, theft of service, inaccuracies in billing, and record keeping. The standard water loss for in Texas is 10 to 15% is acceptable. A little bit of background, as water infrastructure ages, the loss of treated water in the distribution system increases. Water audits are an important water conservation tool for utilities. Texas House Bill 3338 requires water utilities to perform water loss audits every 5 years. The program is implemented by the Texas Water Development Board. The PUB's first water system audit was conducted in 1993, and it showed a little bit more than 30% water loss. The 2007 water audit, the findings was that the annual water production in gallons at the water plants increased at a greater pace than metered sales. Adjusted annual water losses was 21.5%. What I mean by adjusted, because we do get reports from the fire department, we do calculations when we have water breaks, so we take that out of the gross, and that's why that's adjusted. The numbers that we show on the graphs are basically based on gross. Some of the recommendations from the water audit was to implement a leak detection program, test water plant production meters for accuracy, implement large water meter testing program, implement meter replacement program. The implementation of the audit's recommendations, so with staff in 2007, from 2007 to 2009, we hit the leak detection pretty aggressively. We're doing about 36 to 60 miles per year. The water plant production meters that were difficult to test for accuracy, and one of the production meters were estimated to be about 14% off calibration. The meter replacement program, also we were replacing an average of about 2,488 meters per year, which is about 5% of our inventory. The water losses still remain high and remain increasing. So in 2010 is when staff, talking to upper management, we put together these 2 projects, well actually 3 of them, which was the meter replacement, the leak detection, and then we also replaced the water plant master meters, so the production meters. In 2010, we contracted JBS and Associates to update water audit. Actually, James Smith is in the audience today, so if you all have any questions regarding costs, whatever, I can bring him up and talk to you all about that. So what we did, we accelerated the meter replacement with contract services. January 13, 2010, the board approved the purchase of additional 12,628 meters. In June 14, 2010, the meter installation contract was awarded to RG3 Utilities out of Wascom, Texas. We also contracted leak detection services. On August 9, 2010, the board approved the contract for New York leak detection out of Janesville, New York, to survey a total of 220 miles. We also replaced the production meters at water plant number 1 and water plant number 2. These are just some pictures of this was the original production meter we had at water plant number 1. This is our full body mag meter. This white part right here is our meter. And actually this picture right here was taken at water plant number 2, and that was replaced in December 1st of 2010. This is just a couple of more pictures, and the actual meters were replaced by PUB crews. The production meter at water plant number 1 was replaced in June 16, 2010. So this red pipe is where it's coming out. Here's your production, your mag meter here. The water meter replacement, RG3, replaced 10,314 water meters that were 12 years or older. The Brownsville PUB tested removed meters for accuracy to determine potential impact. Based on the overall weighted accuracy, meters were inaccurate by about 10%. This is estimated to about 70 million gallons that were being unregistered by those meters. This is just a picture showing you the test bench where we tested the meters. Here the total meters replaced. If you look back to 2005, we did have the meter replacement program. We're doing about an average of 1,100 meters per year. In 2007 is when we started hitting a little bit harder, trying to gain some ground. So we're looking at about 2,400 on average. And in 2010, if you notice, we replaced 12,945 meters. New York leak detection surveyed 214 miles of water mains, with including valves, service lines, and fire hydrants. A total of 39 leaks were detected. 5 service lines, fire hydrants 20, valves 2, main lines 2, and others 10, meter resetters and stuff like that along the meters. Based on those reports we got, we're estimating that based on these leaks, we're estimating about 28.9 million gallons of water loss per year. Here's just, I put this slide in. This is a typical leak that was out there in the system, and I was laughing with the crews because they were digging for it, and they actually went across all the way to the street, and they couldn't find it. They were about to give up. It ended up being underneath the driveway, and actually it was making its way into the storm drain. I don't know what Arasaka was feeding, but more like that. I haven't gotten a report of low water, but we may get one soon. Here, water loss for 2006 and 2010. 2006, you looked at 22.5%. And if you notice, it just kept increasing, even though we're trying our best to keep it down. In 2010, you look at a 20%. That's based on the last 3 months that we did. I think we impacted it pretty much. So here in 2010, I kind of broke it down by month. If you notice, the water losses they range. They're real high, real low. That's why it's better to take a yearly average. This is based on the billing cycles. So we take our readings for the production per month. And the meter, you basically check it against what with the sales. So the billing cycles have a lot to do with the fluctuation. But if you notice, this when we implemented the meter replacement was in July 14th through November. That's when they started replacing those meters. They completed in November. We started in October with the leak detection, completed in December. So our preliminary results: a better projection of savings will require at least 12 months metering and accounting history. Average water loss for the fourth quarter of 2010 was 16.2%. Projected savings approximately 100 million gallons per year. Expected to pay back about 2 to 3 years. That's basically it. Anybody has any questions?
Excellent presentation. Does anybody have any questions? Thank you. Thank you very much. Next item number 12, consideration approval to proceed with a request for proposals for design build construction of the Robindale wastewater treatment plant renovation and expansion project. Mr. Ortiz.
Yeah, the Brownsville Public Utilities Board continues to proceed with the design build construction of the Robindale wastewater treatment plant renovation and expansion project. On December 13th of 2010, the board selected Broadus & Associates to be owner's representative for the project, and BPB completed stage 1 of the proposal phase by selecting 3 design build finalists based on qualifications. The 3 design build finalists are AECOM Technical Services, CH2M Hill Engineers, and Archer Western Contractors. Broadus & Associates and BPB intend to issue a request for proposals to the 3 design build finalists to proceed with the 30% design and cost estimate. And the following presentation provides the status of the project, schedule, and the green or sustainability elements related to the Robindale wastewater treatment plant renovation and expansion project.
Okay. Chairman, members of the board, thank you for having us. Our original plan was to pursue 2 paths at the same time. Path 1 was basically the technical side, and Path 2 was the legal side, the contracts and other legal exhibits. Everything in Path 1 is done. Everything in Path 2 as you can see, is done except for 2 items that are kind of process dependent. We can't establish communication protocols with everybody until we have a design build team on board, but we're communicating well among ourselves, I believe. And the permitting requirements, since this is a new animal in the state of Texas, we will we'll be working on the permitting requirements with the TCEQ and EPA as we go through the process. Everything else has been completed, and it's actually in that volume right there, which is how many? 680, 690 pages. It's a lot of work since we started in mid-December. The new timeline, we would like to issue the request for proposals, which is contained in the volume, tomorrow, pending your approval. 2 weeks later, on March the 2nd, we would have a pre-proposal conference where the design build teams, all 3 of them, would come in. We'd tour the plant in the morning and then have a pre-proposal question in the after lunch. On May the 4th, which is 2 days off of the original schedule, because I think we moved it to a Wednesday instead of a Monday, we would receive the design build proposals. On May 25, we'd convene the technical selection committee. Everybody will have been reviewing the design build, the 30% proposals that the DB teams will bring in. And on June the 13th, you guys would review the presentations of the 30% design and cost estimates from the 3 teams. You'd make a decision, and on June the 14th, we would, pending your instruction, we would begin negotiations and give them a notice of award. We'd like to start by July the 1st, which means authorize them to go ahead. We think the negotiations will take about 2 weeks. And then in about 2 years, by June 2013, the construction would be substantially complete online and bringing you into compliance for ammonia effluents. There have been some questions about how green and how energy efficient, et cetera, are the guidelines that we're putting together. It's a good green program. It's an energy efficient program. I am now standing in for Engineer Paul Bezier with Pape Dawson, who could not be here tonight, but I've talked this over with him and understand the process fairly well. One of the main energy users of the new plant or of any plant is your aeration system, the blowers. We're optimizing the aeration facilities. We're putting in variable speed controls. We're going for better control of dissolved oxygen, and then we're also putting in fine bubble diffusers, which are the most important or the most effective way to get dissolved oxygen into the system. Startup and commissioning protocols are again in the design criteria package, and they're very stringent. We are minimizing the use of hazardous chemicals, which is one of the green components. We're giving the design build teams an option. They can either use chlorine disinfection, which is it puts the BPUB at the mercy of your chemical salesman. Ultraviolet disinfection is electrically powered. It's you're in other words, you would be supplying your own disinfection power. Denitrification with nitrification sounds redundant, but it's really not. What it does is it reduces the amount of oxygen in the process. As I mentioned earlier, your blowers that introduce oxygen into your effluent, these are your big energy hogs. Denit and nit can cut your dissolved oxygen by almost in half, which allows you to not have to run your blowers, but about half the time. Co-digestion of compatible waste, this actually goes over into anaerobic systems, which we'll talk about in a little bit, but that is required in the design criteria, the ability to handle co-digestion of compatible waste. That's the stuff that comes out of a grease trap, basically, grease, oils, things like that. energy efficient lighting and lighting controls for the outside lighting as well as the inside lighting of any buildings that we would put up are required in the specs. Power factor correction, again, is required in the specs. One of the green aspects would be to reduce and recycle waste from the construction. That's an operational task that we can keep an eye on and monitor fairly easily in the construction process. Sludge treatment, the specifications again in the design criteria package allow us either aerobic digestion or anaerobic digestion, currently with no combined heat and power component, but I'll get back to that in just a minute. We're offering extra credit on the evaluation of the design teams, of the design build teams, if they can give us Class A biosolids as a final sludge product. Class A biosolids can be used anywhere. You can sell it as fertilizer. The coliform bacteria basically has been removed. It's not Class B, which is what the PUB has right now, as I understand it. The budget estimates for this, if we rehab the existing aerobic digesters, it's going to cost us about $580,000. If we build a new anaerobic digester, it's going to cost 10 or 11 million. You can't convert your existing digesters to anaerobic operation because they're square. An anaerobic digester needs to be round because it's got a rotating mechanism on the inside that mixes the product, the sewage. If you put that mechanism in a square tank, you have stagnant eddies in the corners, and you just don't get the mixing that you need to have for an anaerobic system. So we need to build a new anaerobic digester. There are advantages to aerobic digestion. It's much less expensive in the initial setup cost. They're easy to operate. They don't create a whole lot of unpleasant odors, and it reduces your total sludge mass. However, they do cost a little more in energy. They have poor dewaterability, reduced pH, and alkalinity. Sometimes they don't work very well in cold temperatures. That doesn't, well, up until about 2 weeks ago, I'd say we don't have to worry about that much, but you know how it is. And sometimes they foam. Anaerobic digestion, on the other hand, they reduce solids very well. Some anaerobic processes can produce the Class A sludge I was talking about a minute ago. There's a biogas that's produced. They have fairly low energy requirements, and they do reduce the total sludge mass. However, the disadvantages are that you'll have to have a few more staff. It requires some skilled operators and O&M staff. They can be maintenance intensive. If the plant gets out of balance, it takes a little bit longer to get it back in balance than an aerobic system does. They're difficult to clean. They might experience foaming. They are high in initial cost. They can generate odors, and there's a safety issue concerning the flammable gas that's the biogas that's produced. Now, the biogas takes us to the next couple of slides. Anaerobic digestion with combined heat and power. Basically what this is an anaerobic digestion system can create or produce a flammable gas that you can capture and use to power the Silas Ray power plant if you want to do this. It's more expensive. It is practical for plants that are 5 million gallons a day. Now that's practical but not necessarily cost effective. If you were not producing your own power and you were paying somebody 14, 15 cents per kilowatt hour, it might be a good idea to capture it, put in a couple of micro turbines, and use this to power your plant. That's not the case here. On the other hand, it might give you at least a break-even source of fuel, and you'd be doing the environment a favor. It's going to come down to a board decision, but it would also come down to the board finding $10 or $11 million extra, we think. Anaerobic digesters convert organic material to biogas. You have to clean them. you have to clean the gas. You have to remove hydrogen sulfide and siloxanes, and siloxanes are found in personal hygiene products, suntan oil, hand lotions, things like that. It does generate electricity if you use it to power a power plant. The benefits of this are it's green technology, and I mean you can't really get much greener than this. There is a potential reduction in energy use, and the main drawbacks are that there are complex mechanical systems. There's more moving parts to it than there are in an anaerobic system. There are higher levels of operational and maintenance aspects required. So what we have done is we've put an additive alternate for this technology in the request for proposals that will allow the design build teams to come up and say, okay, here's what we'll do for the base plant. If you want to go with a chip system, which is what they call the combined heat and power system, then we can do that much more. We can do that for this much extra. And the cost right now, the estimated cost are $28.9 million. The green component, if we go all the way, is an extra 16.7 for a total combined plant estimated cost of $45,600,000. And the funding, of course, internal funds and EPA funds combined come out to about $30,270,000. So as you can see, we're about $15 million short if we go the entire green course and the chip system. Now, this is going to be dependent, of course, on the actual proposals that we get from the 3 design build teams. And I'd be happy to answer any questions, as long as you don't ask me about nitro and denitro, because that's actually a microbiology lesson, but I got some articles if you want to read them.
Any questions from the board?
When we had our workshop, our facilities committee met, we discussed a couple of issues, and I had an opportunity to page through that small document over there. And there was just a couple of things that popped up. There was one of them was, and it appeared to me, and it may just be, and I don't know if this is the right form, but there were a couple of things that kind of popped up that raised alarm bells in my mind. One of them is the statutes that were being used. I don't know if that was corrected or that were being referenced. There was, let's see, you had 2 conflicting statutes. Section 271 local government code, there was that it listed competitive sealed proposals. And so that was one thing that I just was.
Yeah, it's a design build process.
It is? Okay.
Yes, and it will operate under a guaranteed maximum price. They will come up and tell us, here's what we're going to do, and here's the most it's going to cost. And if I'm not mistaken, the savings will return back to the owner.
Yeah. Okay. Now I just saw some language in there. I was like,
Sure. Yeah, we've been in kind of a hurry to get this document out, and you know, it's required some editing and some revisions, definitely.
And I know I got to have a previous version, so that was also part of it. And then there was also another one that kind of brought, it was just more kind of a philosophical thing. It was specifically on the pricing. It was that we were, that we actually had the best pricing, let's say, excuse me one second. It essentially talked about that we would go with the lowest bidder, lowest responsible bidder. And I thought throughout this process we were going to be looking at essentially the best overall.
That is the intent. To go with the lowest possible, the lowest qualified bidder is not the intent.
Okay.
This is the design build process is put together to allow you to pick the best team to give you the best job. And in my experience, the lowest bidder is rarely going to give you really what you want. And that's why the state of Texas allows alternative delivery processes now, and because they got stiffed on so many low bid jobs, frankly.
Okay, I mean those were really the two
Great, if I may, with regard to what we're looking for is the best value, Mr. Garcia, in terms of the design build respondent. Best value, they already know what the target is in terms of cost. So So we have provided some guidance in terms of expectations, in terms of quality, and not compromising that quality. So they need to accomplish the quality that we're looking for and maximize value. Yeah, there is going to be some cost associated with their proposal, but we're going to be looking at the best value, not necessarily the lowest cost, because there's a lot of issues in terms of quality, in terms of efficiency, durability, life cycle, all those items need to come into play in terms of the evaluation of cost.
I just didn't want the language to kind of trip us up, and that was the only thing.
And I think we've had that discussion with staff, and we're gonna clarify that as part of the pre-proposal conference that we have with the design build respondents in 2 weeks, to clarify that we're looking for best value. But that is a good question.
Well, and then I saw that you guys already fixed the May 1st as the May 1 delivery date. That was another little piece. So that's it.
Any other questions? Okay, this is an action item. As far as staff recommendations, approval to proceed with the issuance of requests for proposals to 3 design build finalists for the 30% design and cost estimate for the Brownsville wastewater treatment plant renovation and expansion.
I move the motion for staff recommendation.
A motion by Dr. Matas, second by Mr. Vasquez. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Thank you very much for the presentation. We have just consent items. Is there any questions on any consent items? Do I have a motion to approve? Well, I guess included in the consent items, well, let's approve the minutes. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes that are in consent item number 1? So moved. Second. All in favor? Aye. About now consent items number 2 to 11. Is there any questions on any of those consent items?
One question on item number 8.
Is that only one that we have a question on?
One question. On item number 8, it states here where you added 163 days to being added for the suspension of work in addition to the 34 rainy days. So is this the same item we had discussed 2 meetings prior that you were going to look into?
No, sir, that was
The expiration date had passed?
No, that's a different project.
That's a different project, okay.
This one's State Highway 48, it's mandated by the state, they wouldn't let us work, so we had to suspend the time.
Okay, so it's not, the other one was, I believe, 802 or something?
It's a coffee board.
Copy, okay.
Do I have a motion to approve consent items number 2 to number 11? Moved by Dr. Morales, second by Mr. Garcia. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Is there any public comments? No. Public comments? Okay. I guess we have a motion to adjourn the meeting. Motion. Second. All in favor? Aye. Meeting adjourned. Thank you very much.